Dugong not in mirror shot range, but hashtag no baits on this channel. Wild Charge secures the knockout. The opponent sends out Gligar. We pivot into Pidgeot, drawing out the bulky Vulture. We now see the battle of the flying types. Bulk all with the opponent, damage output all with us. Pat farms up. Full sends the Brave Bird, does the opponent. Respect the damage, Brave Bird. Near one shots, we're able to outpace the Aerial Ace, and Mandibuzz is going to be straight in and straight out. Welcome back to the channel. My god, do we have a banger of a battle submission for you all today. We've seen everyone getting on the Shadow Magnezone hype train, rightfully so, because that thing has some big boom potential. Most people using Zone have paired it up with stuff like Gligar. Of course, these two do form a very good core. However, does Gligar have big boom potential? Not really. Pat also going to be rocking Flyers to cover Zone's weaknesses to both fighting and ground. However, we've got the oppressive Shadow Dragonite and the king of the sky, Shadow Pidgeot. We recently saw Dunebug win one of the Play Pokemon regionals using Shadow Pidgeot. He was able to showcase its incredible power, because let me tell you, this thing does not care about typings. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, Pat leads the Shadow UFO into Hypno, some Shadow on Shadow crime. The confusions are going to be resisted, but this Pokemon does have access to Thunder Punch that it's going to reach after 4 confusions. The opponent farms up some energy, safe switch into Wormadam, and my god, Wormadam did not appreciate that Wild Charge. We then send in Pidgeot. Pidgeot going to be able to tank any one move. The opponent actually fire off the Bug Buzz, which is resisted. If they had Iron Head, that would have been the move I'd recommend throwing, but undeterred, Pat able to farm all the way down, and out comes Dugong. Pat full sends the Brave Bird. Brave Bird gets the opponent incredibly low, and Pat once again going to full send the Brave Bird. So even if the opponent shields, we're going to minimise the free farm. We can already see Pat is not a fan of baiting. He plays very much the style I like to see. We now send out Zone. Zone going to respect the potential drill run. The opponent, of course, bait with the Icy Wind, but no bait is going to be saving this opponent's fate. Back out comes Hypno. Pat full sends the Wild Charge. Wild Charge forces the opponent's final protection. We now pivot into Dragonite. Dragonite probably going to have to respect a potential Ice Punch. Pat shields the opponent actually running Legacy Side Shock, but regardless of the moveset, this game is already signed, sealed and delivered. Dragon Claw secures the knockout. We're going to Dragon Breath farm down Dugong, and we're off to a 1-0 start. In the next battle, we see some Shadow on Shadow crime, very much in our favour. The opponent safe switches into Annihilate, and we see the pivot into Dragonite. Dragonite farms up, able to win the charge attack priority event, and this will either force a shield or secure the knockout. The opponent gives us early shield advantage. We see Pat say, enjoy yourself. The opponent says, thanks, I'll take back switch, and nuke us with the Ice Punch. Pat now sends out Pidgeot. Pidgeot going to be looking for the 1 shield. Wing attack farm all the way down, and it's time to start YOLOing some Brave Birds. If the opponent sends back out Alola Ninetales, I think it's an easy opportunity to land the Brave Bird, as the opponent knows they're completely walled by a UFO. Pat full sends the Brave Bird. Get that Ninetales off my screen. We then see the pivot into Magnezone. The opponent sends out Dragonair, throw on alignment, and that is going to be the final nail in the opponent's coffin. Of course, Dragon does resist electric. However, you think Magnezone gives a crap about typings? It certainly does not. The first Wild Charge forces the opponent's final Protect Shield, and the second one is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Believe it or not, this video is only around 20 minutes long, and we've actually got 3 entire sets, so that tells you there's going to be big booms here, there, and every fucking where. In the next battle, we see Magnezone into Superior. We see the opponent attempt to catch us on the CMP tie. Of course, if Pat would have went for the Wild Charge and dip and played to the CMP tie, we would have had a lower defense, and that Frenzy Plant would have come very close to knocking out. Pat took the extra, fired off the Wild Charge, forcing us early shield advantage. We then pivot into Dragonite, drawing out Mantine. Pat gonna fire off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw lands, getting the big bulky Mantine into the red. Pat with shield advantage can go for the 1 shield. Dragon Breath farm all the way down, and that's exactly what he looks to do. If Mantine is the opponent's best Dragonite answer, they are in so much trouble. The opponent doesn't want to send back out Superior, send out the Quagman. Of course, Mud Boys don't have favourable matchups against dragons. Pat lands the first Dragon Claw. The second Dragon Claw forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Dragonite has done its job, and Pidgeot is going to be primed to sweep this game. The opponent full send a Stone Edge, securing the knockout, and this game is already over with another big boom in store. Pat sends out Pidgeot. We're just going to shield whatever the opponent throws. I'll be honest, I was not counting, but the opponent does full send the Stone Edge, then send out Superior and rudely top left before we nuke him with the Brave Bird. GG's to that opponent. In the next battle, what a lead. It's going to be a big fat no thank you from the opponent, and they're going to have to safe switch into something. That something happens to be Dubwall, and we respond with Pidgeot. Oof, this opponent likely has Wild Charge. I think Wild Charge is the move in this meta. Pat respects the Wild Charge and a very good shield as the opponent was not baiting. As the opponents lowered their own defense, were able to just go straight Aerial Ace the first one, forces the opponent's first Protect Shield. Pidgeot able to fire off the second Aerial Ace. The opponent going all shields down, desperately looking to realign. Is Pat going to give up switch? Nah, he's like, trainer, you're not having switch advantage. We shield up the next Wild Charge, throw one wing attack and the Aerial Ace. Alignment is ours, and we've got all shields down with 3 absolute nuke monsters. Back out comes Mantine. Trainer, you need to throw. The opponent plays the CMP tie. They do not win. Shout out Home Slice Henry for that quote. The opponent near gets nuked with the Brave Bird, and this looks like a GG. Mantine certainly in 1 Volt Switch range. They instantly pivot into Ferrothorn. The opponent is going to need to have Flash Cannon to have any chance of winning this game. However, that's only 5 Bullet Seeds. It's a neutral Thunder. We might be squishy, but Thunder doesn't get the job done. The opponent recognise the game's over, and they're going to concede the match. GG's. In the next battle, my god, Pat is the algorithm confirmed. These are straight battles. Pat sent me a file like 47 minutes long. So if you think they're hand selected, they're not. Pat's just winning leads. It is what it is. Sometimes you have a good day, sometimes you have a bad day. Pat was able to one shield Volt Switch farm the opposing Greninja all the way down, have a disastrous strike. What the heck does this team do against Steelix? I have no idea, as this Steel Snake claps the entirety of our team. Pat fires off the double Wild Charge and then sends out Pidgeot. Of course, Pidgeot, much like Magnezone, completely walled by Steelix. However, Brave Bird is such a hard-hitting move. Pat hopes to sneak it through 2 Protect Shields. The opponent recognising we're completely core broken by Steelix, wisely invest the Protect Shield. The opponent fires off the next Psychic Fang, get 1 further Dragon Tail. Oh, we're in such a rough spot. Pat sends back out the UFO. We're able to reach the Wild Charge on the CMP tie. Hopefully the opponent lets this go and Dragonite's good against whatever's in the back. The opponent actually invests that Protect Shield, and we're going to take so much Dragon Tail damage. Pat sends out Dragonite. Can Dragonite get the resisted Dragon Breath farm down before they reach a charge move? Brutally. We cannot. The opponent fires off the Psychic Fang, then send out Mantine. Mantine is going to be able to outpace to the Aerial Ace before we reach the double Dragon Claw, and unfortunately Pat is going to take a heartbreaking loss. GG's to that opponent. That is going to bring us to the end of set number 1 in this 3-set showcase, with Pat picking up a very nice 4-1. Heading into the next battle. Oof, that's a yikes lead if I ever did see one. We're going to see the instant pivot into Dragonite. Our Dragonite safe switch is met by Cresselia, and things are not looking fantastic. Pat doesn't fire off the Dragon Claw before a potential Moonblast, which the opponent unfortunately is running. So perhaps we're going to make a play at switch advantage. Pat over farms, fires off the first Dragon Claw, forcing the opponent's first Protect Shield. Pat then fires off the next Dragon Claw. Cresselia incredibly thick, so unfortunately this isn't going to knock out. Pat could shield this up and realign if he wants, but Pidgeot and Magnezone with no Protect Shields don't function all that well. I actually have re-recorded this part because I thought, did they only have a Grass Knot? It takes Cresselia 7, then 6 to the Moonblast. The opponent had the Moonblast and threw the world's strangest bait. I've got no idea what that play was, but whatever. Despite that completely illogical play, I've still got no idea how Pat's going to win this game. We send out Pidgeot. The opponent banks their energy on Gligar and send out Swampert. Pidgeot can survive 1 Hydro Cannon. However, the issue here is, even if we successfully catch, the opponent likely just undercharge and Mudshot farm down Magnezone. You can see we're unable to make that catch, and unfortunately Pat is going to get clapped by the GOAT Shadow Swampert. He recognises the game's over and he's going to concede the match. Heading into the next one. After a string of good leads, we see back-to-back ground types. Although Gligar nowhere near as bad as Swampert, Pat banks the Wild Charge, makes a very ambitious attempted dig catch onto Dragonite. The opponent hold their energy and send out Dugong. Pat YOLO's the superpower, of course, forces a Protect Shield. I've now got ourselves a shield advantage. Pat now sends out Magnezone. I think I personally would have instantly Wild Charged, looking to force the final Protect Shield or the knockout. Pat actually took the extra, looked to call the bait, and the opponent unfortunately nuked us through 2 Protect Shields. In the next battle, we see Dugong in the lead. Great lead. The opponent safe switches into Annihilate, and here comes Pidgeot. We fire off the Aerial Ace, an absolutely shit move, but still manages to pick up the one-hit KO back out. Comes Dugong. Pat commits to the Brave Bird. Brave Bird gonna do massive damage to Dugong. Dugong shows no respect and get rocked very deep into the red. This Dugong is still switch locked, so we can send up Magnezone. That 1-volt switch will be knocking out. Pat gonna respect the drill run. The opponent full send the drill run and then send out Gligar. They do single resist electric, but wild charge needs to be respected. The opponent shows no respect. We send out Dragonite and we're going to fast move beat down them for the win. Pat not even going to respect the Aerial Ace. Dragonite easily withstands the damage. We Dragon Breath farm down and take that game. Heading into the next battle. What a lead. The opponent's going to instantly pivot. They send out Annihilate and we answer with Pidgeot. The opponent is going to be able to outpace to a potential Ice Punch. Pat looking to risk it for a biscuit. The opponent fires off the Night Slash. What a ballsy call. Pat then farms up. Plays the CMP tie that he does not win. Annihilate with a 124 attack compared to our 117. However, Pat is going to be able to force both Protect Shields or take Switch. The opponent happy to take their shield advantage. Elect to let Annihilate go down. If Mantine does return, we're going to reach the Brave Bird. Pat attempts to play to the CMP tie, but the opponent does not play ball. We fire off the Brave Bird. Brave Bird lands for absurd damage. The opponent has found himself in 1-volt switch range. They actually bank all their energy and then pivot into Ferrothorn. We get a huge amount of stutter lag. I don't think that's enough for a flash cannon. The opponent actually bait with the Power Whip. We're getting so many frame drops. What the heck is going on? Again, I don't even think that's enough for a Thunder. I'll be honest, with all the lag, I have no idea, especially this is 2 times speed. But Pat evidently either called the bait or no, it wasn't enough for a Thunder or flash cannon, and we're going to pick up the dub. Niantic, please fix this fucking game. In the next battle, we see another Mantine in the lead. Fantastic for us. The opponent safe switches into Superior. I'm quite surprised we didn't go to Pidgeot, but Pat has other ideas. Fires off the Wild Charge, which does so much resisted damage, and then sends out Dragonite. Aerial Ace is a garbage move, even at the best of times when coming from a flying type. I've never seen a snake fly, so this grass type certainly doesn't get the same type attack bonus. This is going to be one of them very niche scenarios where Dragonite's actually able to tank 2 neutral charge moves. Pretty unheard of. The opponent sends back out Mantine. Dragonite was already in the red, so the opponent gets quite minimal farm. We now send back out Magnezone. We will be able to tank any one move. Water Pulse does around 65%. The opponent actually bait with a double resisted Aerial Ace and then send out Gligar. Pat looking to do big damage or force protection with the Wild Charge. Once again, the opponent shows no respect. We send out Pidgeot and the opponent is going to concede the match. GG's and thanks for playing. And that is going to bring us to the end of set number 2, where Pat remains going positive with a 3-2. Heading into the final set, we lead Magnezone into Dugong. Great lead. It's interesting that the opponent is staying in, so if you're in this situation, you need to recognise the opponent likely has something else that doesn't want to see zone. Pat respects a potential drill run. The opponent baits with the Icy Wind, but undeterred, Pat farms up to the double Wild Charge and he's full sending it. The opponent shows no respect. They get one shot. The opponent now thinking about what they want to send out. The opponent sends out Gligar. We see the pivot into Pidgeot, drawing out Mandibars. This is the battle of the flyers where the bulk is all with the opponent and the damage output is all with us. The opponent fires off the Dark Pulse. We easily withstand the damage. Pat farms up, looks to full send the Brave Bird. Does the opponent respect the damage? Mandibars near gets one shot. We then throw one wing attack and the next Aerial Ace, and Mandibars is going to find itself straight in and straight out. Gligar is now tasked with 1v3 in the team. Pat unable to reach another Brave Bird, but this Aerial Ace lightly gets shielded as the opponent needs to keep some health on it. The opponent does get the full wing attack farm down. Pat has got a Wild Charge banked and we've still got a full health Dragonite, so we're very much in the driver's seat. Pat sends out Magnezone, goes straight for the Wild Charge. Wild Charge goes unshielded. We then pivot into Dragonite and that is going to be all she wrote. Pat going to shield up the first Aerial Ace. We're easily going to be able to survive the second and we're just going to Dragon Breath farm down and that is going to be game over. The opponent playing out the inevitable Aerial Ace certainly doesn't get the job done. And as I said, we Dragon Breath farm down and Pat picks up the dub. In the next battle, we see the battle of the electric glass cannons. This is actually IV dependent who wins CMP. Both trainers farm up. They both look to make the catch. And in the Simul swap, Pat very much has come out on top. Especially when the opponent doesn't farm up to a potential Hyper Beam. We see the instant no shield deployed. The opponent fire off the double resisted Scorching Sands. Pat continuing to farm up. Firing off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw goes unshielded. I think at this stage we just commit to the Dragon Breath farm down again. This isn't a Hyper Beam. I think if you want to run this Easter Bunny looking Pokemon Diggersby, I personally Would run it on Hyper Beam, especially if you're going to say switch it as a get out of jail free card. Back out comes Galvantula. Pat attempts to throw on the CMP side. I personally would have looked to throw at good timing. Again, Dragonite has got an IV dependent chance of winning CMP. However, if Galvantula, Magnezone and Dragonite all have PvP IVs, Galvantula generally has the higher attack, which is on display here as we do lose the CMP tie. Dragonite and Magnezone have around 135 and Galvantula has around 137. This game's already wrapped up, so while we see Pat play out the inevitable, I don't often talk about IVs. However, some Pokemon I would recommend building attack weighted in their shadow form are Gligar, because if you build an attack weighted Gligar, you've got an IV dependent chance of beating stuff like Wishcash and Quagsire. I'd also look to build an attack weighted Sableye, because you'd be able to win CMP against stuff like Venusaur, Swampert and Frostlass. If you'd like more top tips, post it down below and I'll try and be a little bit more informative from time to time. Heading into the next battle. Shout out this opponent, running Jirachi, the Pokemon we featured yesterday. Magnezone completely walls Jirachi. Pat tanks the Doom Desire, returns fire with the Wild Charge, forcing a Protect Shield. We then see the pivot into Dragonite, drawing out Mandibars. Once again, we're getting a huge amount of stutter lag and frame drops. I honestly think if Niantic don't fix this game soon, it's just going to die. People just aren't going to want to play PvP, because what's the point? It is such shambles. Despite all the stutter lag, Pat able to farm up, throw the Dragon Claw on the CMP side, forcing the protection. We need 9 Dragon Breaths to knock out her again. We're going to have to throw on the CMP. Mandibars looks like it's got hardly any HP, but trust me, this Vulture just refuses to die. And Pat now goes 2 shields down to keep alignment. Pat has no Protect Shields too high behind, but a whole heap of energy on Dragonite and a Wild Charge banked. Out comes Galarian Moltres, a very cool flex. The opponent invests the final protection on the Superpower, and then we see the Simul swap. Back out comes Jirachi, and we answer with Pidgeot. The opponent fires off the Doom Desire. Pat lets himself get incredibly low before firing off the Brave Bird, and that's going to be game over. The opponent is going to be able to wing attack farm us down, but there is zero chance this thing survives a Wild Charge. I think Wild Charge would probably kill Galarian Moltres and all its relatives. GG's, and thanks for playing. I think the opponent made a mistake there, respecting the Superpower. They could have survived that, whereas Wild Charge they certainly could not. In the next battle, we see a Shadow Alolan Ninetales in the lead with a Save Switch Annihilate. Pat answers with Pidgeot. Last time he risked it for a Biscuit, this time he is going to respect the Ice Punch. Good shield, the opponent did have Ice Punch. Pat this time throws before the CMP tie. Good recognition and good adjustment from the last battle. Aerial Ace secures the knockout back out. Comes Ninetales and Pat is full sending. Does the opponent respect the damage? Brave Bird? Oh, go shielded. I really was expecting a no shield, as what the heck is this Ninetales going to throw at our UFO? Essentially nothing, as everything's resisted. Pat sends back out Magnezone, fires off the Mirror Shot, forcing the Protect Shield. Trainer, what's in the back? The opponent actually tried to catch a Mirror Shot onto Shadow Vic. Pat shows great composure, holds his energy, sends out Dragonite. We fire off the Dragon Claw, securing the knockout. The opponent can commit to the Charm Down, Farm Down. We've got the Mirror Shot and the Wild Charge bank. It's pretty irrelevant which move we throw, as either is going to knock out. Pat opts for the Mirror Shot and we pick up the dub. Very, very disciplined gameplay. Two things I really liked in that battle there was Pat made the adjustment, not playing to CMP like he did previously when he saw an Annihilate, and also anticipating the catch. In the next battle, we see Dr. Squidworth in the lead, of course. Great for us. The opponent Save Switches into Dunsparce, show no respect to the Wild Charge, near get one shot. Pat then sends out Dragonite, shields up the rock slide, commits to the Dragon Breath farm down, and the destructive team is running rampant back out. Comes Tentacruel, Pat farms up, throws the Dragon Claw, Shadow and Shadow Crime. This is going to do a lot of damage. Dragon Claw forces the protection. The opponent looks for the Poison Jab farm down. Dragonite says no, reaches the next Dragon Claw, forcing both Protect Shields off the opponent. Committing to the full Poison Jab farm down has put them into 1 Volt Switch range. The opponent bank all their energy, send out Dragonair. Dragonair, of course, being a dragon, should resist electric, not that it looks like it. The Wild Charge near one-shots them. We snipe with Pidgeot. The opponent is then going to concede the match. What a way to clutch up the big 5-0. Huge shout out to Pat for a very impressive display. I think Pat is one of the most improved players I've seen. When I first saw him, probably around 5, 6, maybe even 8 months ago, he was running these squishy glass cannons. His timing, etc. was atrocious and he was getting clapped. However, he's made a lot of adjustments and he's now able to run squishy glass cannons to great success in Go Battle League. Keep up the good work, buddy. And that is just about going to wrap things up. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you'd like your battles featured on my channel, like Pat did, a link to a battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thank you to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.